Okay, so these are keyboard harmony guidelines for first inversion triads. All right. This is where we're realizing bass lines here. Okay, so the first category is for when a first inversion bass note moves up to a root position bass note. All right. In this scenario, you have to double the root in the first inversion chord. Double the root of the first inversion chord. And that will give you, and after that, you do smooth voice leading in the other voices, and you will not commit any parallelisms. There is an exception to this rule, but we will talk about it after we demonstrate the regular conditions for this rule. The second first inversion category is when the first inversion bass note moves down by step to a root position bass note. In this case, we double the bass note. We double the third of the chord of the first inversion chord. So first inversion bass note moves down by step to root position bass note. You double the bass in first inversion chord. All right, the third category for first inversion is the only exception to the first rule. All right, so in the first rule is about bass note moving up by step to root position chord. This happens when you have a 2/6 to 5 progression, but in this case, and again, a bass to be doubled in 2/6 rather than the root of the chord. So that's the exception to rule number 1, is when you have 2/6 going to 5. You don't double the root, you double the bass in this case. So that's guideline number 3. All right, when you have 2 first inversion bass notes next to each other, you double the bass in the chord with the lower bass note, and you double the root in the chord with the upper bass note, and then you have smooth voice leading in the other voices. All right, double bass in lower chord, double root in upper chord. Okay, here we have a 5/6 moving to 1. All right, so let's voice that 5/6 chord first. So when a first inversion bass note moves up by step to a root position bass note, what do we have to double in the first inversion chord? Again, this is 5/6 going to 1. What do we have to double in that 5/6 chord?
The root.
The root. Now with 5/6 is easy because you're not supposed to double the leading tone in a 5 chord. So you guys would have guessed the root anyways without the guidelines. But in any other situation where you have a first inversion bass note move up by step to root position, double the root. So we're going to double the root. Let's have the root in the soprano. Let's have the root in the tenor voice as well. All right. And let's have the 5th of the chord in the alto. All right. And now we just do smooth voice leading from here. Our leading tone is in the bass, and it already resolved up to scale degree 1. Let's keep common tones where possible. And with root position chords, we want to double the root where possible. But I'm going to keep common tones also where possible. All right. We're going to move this. Oh, sorry. Let's have some smooth voice leading here. Okay, alto voice. And let's double the root in our 1 chord. We have a sol-do relationship in the tenor, which is cool. All right. We're going from 1/6. Again, we're in C major. We're going from 1/6 to 2. First inversion 1 chord to 2 chord, a dominant prep chord in root position. All right. In this case, what do we have to double in the first inversion chord?
Bass.
The bass. So in this case, we're going to double that E. We're going to double the bass. Let's see where we can do that. All right. Let's double the bass in the alto. I don't know. That seems like a good place to voice it. All right. Oh, I should have. All right. That's correct. All right. And then let's find a place for our other chord tones. Let's see. Let's have the root of the chord in V tenor, and let's have the root of the chord. I mean, the fifth of the chord. Excuse me, in V soprano. Okay. Now from here, we do the smoothest voice leading possible from our 1/6 to our 2 chord, and we shall not have any problems. Okay. All right. So let's bring. No, let's start with the top voice. Why not? All right. Oh, no, we can't do that. I found a way to create parallelisms here. Okay. Almost committed a parallelism between alto and bass there, but since I'm following my guidelines, easy to keep track of. All right. So again, I doubled the bass in the first inversion chord in my 1/6, and then I had smoothest possible voice leading in the next chord. All right. And you notice a little bit of contrary motion here. Whenever possible, that's always a good idea. And of course, this is a root position chord. If possible, if it's not causing any problems, you want to double the root. All right. All right, let's go to the 2, 6 to 5 category. Again, this is the exception to the category 1 rule, is a 2, 6 to 5. All right. Under the regular first inversion, go up to root position category, we would double the root of the chord, but since this is 2, 6, we're going to double the bass instead. All right, so we're going to go. Would be a good place. I'm guessing alto would be a nice place to double the bass. Okay, and then let's just voice the rest of the word. Have the root. Oh gosh, and crash on. All right, and oh, sorry, crash on me again. Goodness gracious. Okay, now the smoothest voice leading to that 5. All right, let's see. Contrary motion is always a good idea. So I'm going to bring that soprano down to G. All right, and I'm going to bring that down to D, the alto down to D, and that tenor down to the leading tone. I know I'm not preserving the voice layers in the notation, but we get the idea. All right. Okay, last category, when you have 2 first inversion bass notes next to each other. I'm going to use the example of 7 diminished 6 going to 1, 1, 6. We're going to talk about 7 diminished in more detail next week. So we'll just voice it quickly here. All right. All right. So that is the third of the chord of 7 diminished 6. And we're moving to the third of the 1 chord. So again, we have 7 diminished 6 moving to 1, 2 first inversion bass notes right next to each other. So what is the guideline for this? We got 2 first inversion bass notes right next to each other. What's the guideline?
In the lower chord, you double the bass.
Yes. And in the upper chord, you double the root. That's correct. Yeah. All right. Let's double. And this takes us out of a bind too, because say we forgot that this was a 7 diminished 6 chord. All right. If we were to double the root in the 7 diminished 6 chord, we would be doubling the leading tone. And when we resolve those leading tones, we get parallel octaves. So this also keeps us out of trouble when we're dealing with 7 diminished 6, which is a very, very popular passing chord. When we get to our section on passing 6/4s, we're also going to talk about 7 diminished 6, although it's in first inversion as a passing chord. All right. So fifth of the chord. And doubling the soprano. Okay. Man, somebody really wants to talk to me. I'm gonna have to. Sorry, guys. All right. Okay. Now let's find the nicest place to double the root for our 1 chord. Root is C. All right. And why don't we resolve the leading tone? Why don't we do that? But the leading tone is in an inner voice, so we can avoid resolving it. No, let's resolve it. Oops, I'm trying to preserve my voice layers here. Okay, resolve that leading tone. All right, we got to double the root. So we got the root in the tenor voice. We got the root again in the soprano. All right, and let's see what chord tone remains. And there you have it. Okay. All right, we just talked about